The 24th day of January, 2016. And here it is, folks, the radical agnostic, where ideology goes to die, where the intellectual rubber hits the road. Did that make sense? I was trying to do that phrase in the shower.
What's an intellectual rubber? Is that like when nerds have sex?
Yeah. No, it's
anybody who knows I'm on the show won't buy it.
My name's John. I'm your host. We got Mark, my co-host.
Yeah!
That was awful. We got the stowaway guest, Brian Richter.
Howdy.
And the other guest, Eddie West.
How y'all doing?
So happy to be back. Here we are, sunny winter's day. It's 80 degrees. Tucson, Arizona, in the great American Southwest. We got an awesome show for you today, folks. It's going to be a little bit of riffing, a little bit of off the cuff. But we'll see where it goes. Just an hour long. You won't have to suffer. Eddie was saying that he bought a typewriter. Now, Eddie...
Actually, it was a gift, actually. I bought several typewriters, but that one was a gift.
Oh. Now, the risk when you say, I bought a typewriter, is that everyone in your immediate vicinity will think you're a pretentious cunt.
Luckily, I've put that to rest by demonstrating I'm a pretentious cunt all the time.
What's the attraction? I mean, typewriters are beautiful machines and everything, and that does harken back to a great era of writing. But
that's actually a really good question, and it's something that my wife, who's an artist, has asked me before. And I always turn. She draws, she sketches, she uses various art. She knows a lot about like the various processes, so she can use Photoshop, but she can also draw and sketch.
Right.
And she's got talent, so fuck it, god damn it.
Yeah,
Because I can't draw shit. But the point is, she still sketches.
I can barely draw breath.
She sketches though. She still she could do it all on the computer, and she chooses not to because it's different. So when she asks me, well, why are you typing on the typewriter? Why not just type on a computer?
Right.
Well, the keyboards are very different. The process is very different. It is much closer, in my opinion, to handwriting, while still having at least some of the speed. Like, there's that slow, you have to think about your words more, you're a little more terse. Yeah,
but backing up and crossing out a word, I mean, that's torture, bro. You got the line, the under, whatever, the strike through, and then you got to, and then, push the friggin' column back to where, I don't know.
That's why they made whiteout. You're rocking a Selectric too?
Yeah, whiteout.
No, I don't use electric typewriters. The typewriter I just got
is old school.
The one I just got's from 1925.
That's.
I own.
Is it like cast iron? Is it like 800
They all
pounds?
are pretty much. Well, not all of them, but yeah, no, they're all.
Yeah, dude, they
actually,
are.
yeah, no, some of them are cast. Well, I think they're like cast steel. I don't know enough about metalworking. Which, speaking of which, anybody know how to braze? Because I got a broken typewriter.
Oh, I'll braze all day. I have no idea what that even means.
Yeah, I thought it had to do with meat.
Yeah,
similar. But soldering is a special kind of brazing.
Metal,
but
though.
Typing on a typewriter is actually, it's very different and it's very fun. The process is a little slower, and yeah, it sucks in the sense of I have to either scan or retype it in.
Yeah,
but you're gonna have to do that anyway when you edit. I mean, you edit and you're gonna go through your work anyway.
Well, I've always, if I wanted to describe who I wanted to be, it was always philosopher, and it wasn't writer. And people thought, oh, John likes to write. And no, I actually hate writing. But I like thinking, and the written word is the best way to, when you have a bad memory, to get a complex thought down.
Well, it's the best way
I just thought what my mom would say right there, and she would say, no, John doesn't like to write. John likes to talk.
Oh. Well, I did start a podcast, so I guess she's right.
The one advantage to typewriters...
Although when her son is Brian Richter, that's a tough... All right, go ahead.
The one advantage typewriters to word processors or whatever is... like the one that Eddie's talking about, you can beat someone to death with it. Whereas laptop, not really.
Yeah,
good point.
Laptop,
and here's the thing about that is, the only reason
blow.
I wouldn't do that is because I'd be like, ooh, I might dent the typewriter. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Not that cast iron one.
But I have an Underwood portable from right before the Depression and an Underwood portable from right after the Depression.
And the noticeable difference is?
The one from during the Depression has a lot less features, and it's funny because it's the same kind. It's like you just notice, there's this button missing and that button missing and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's also a big shortage of... I guess the war hadn't started, so that you could still get your hands on stuff. Like, once the war started...
It was more to make the typewriters a more reasonable price.
Right.
That was the issue. One of the few things that will actually make me angry, especially that are in the art world, are when I see people cutting the keys off of typewriters, I want to punch someone in the face every time. Like, go fuck yourself. No one's making them. People make jewelry out of it, and it's very pretty, but it's like no one makes typewriters anymore. So when you like take a whole typewriter that may work, you cut the keys off. It's like somebody equated it to shark fin soup. Like, I'm going to kill the whole shark, but just use the fin.
I was going to say it's like finding a dinosaur bone and then like giving it to your dog to chew on or something. Like,
I don't think it's quite like that. But
there's Serena Williams has a quote that says "Fashion hurts," and in this case, it hurts Eddie.
Yeah,
it does.
Physical pain. So what if it's keys from a typewriter that doesn't work anymore?
I don't think that most of the people doing it put that much thought in it. But if somebody said, like, hey, I found this typewriter, it was completely fucked up, and all that was salvageable was the keys themselves.
So what Eddie's saying is he still hates him for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, they could be like, American Indians and use the whole entire typewriter. They use it until it can't be used anymore, and then they use all the parts to do stuff, and the keys they make jewelry out of.
The problem with the old mechanical typewriters is, like, they're usable forever.
It's 2050. You know those hipsters? They used to use every part of the typewriter. In my day. Oh, good shit. Does anyone else wish... Does anyone else here wish that they were in the middle of that blizzard on the East Coast? Because I do.
No.
I do. At home. I'm not saying outside, but... living there.
What are you smoking?
Yeah, but that's one of those. That's one of those fantasies where it's all the ancillary stuff that makes that fantasy fun. It's like, yeah. So I wish I was snowed in and rich enough where I didn't have to work, so I could just be at home all the time and warm in bed, and I had lots of food stocked up. Oh yeah, when you phrase the fantasy that way, but how about if it's the fantasy is you're as poor as you are now and you're snowed in.
Yeah, but Brian pointed out I work from home, so I'm good on that.
That's true.
Because it gives you anyone.
But your internet's out because it's the Northeast, and the internet in the Northeast is 2 tin cans and a string.
That's another thing I said. If you don't want the power to go out, that's not much fun. You can't. There's really no way to warm yourself in a modern house if the power goes out. Like, you can't start a fire. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you had a gas oven or gas stove.
A dude I know from Montana put a thing up that said, "Oh, you're having a snowstorm back east? Try living in Montana, Tinkerbell."
Yeah. It's a bad one, though. Record in D.C., I think. Record snowfall and close everywhere else.
Did you see that picture of my friend Paul in the Borat bikini shoveling his...
No.
It's awesome, dude.
I remember... I know I'm romanticizing it, but I love that feeling of nature is just bigger than you. You have to submit to it for a few days, and you're not going anywhere, so you have no responsibilities in a sense. And if you were smart enough, I mean, this was in the news for 3 days. You got some food. You're good to go. You're ready to brave it out.
You love that feeling?
Yes, I love that feeling of being overwhelmed by nature, like not having it actually kill me.
Because that's a good answer to why people go backpacking.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That same feeling. It's nature. You have to submit to it. It's bigger than you.
You make limitations for yourself. You make things difficult, too.
I submit to nothing.
But come on, you don't go backpacking and go walk to one area and then fucking set your tent up and stay in your tent for a week.
You're mixing metaphors.
No, I'm not. I'm saying if you're in that blizzard and you're stuck in your house 24 hours a day for however many days... It's not the same as going backpacking.
I'm just saying it's the same, like loving that feeling of submitting to nature and having to deal with
those things.
No, I understand what you're saying.
It's a good answer.
But I just don't equate it with what John's talking about.
But I think John's fucking insane. I wouldn't want to be in that blizzard. I'd much rather just go backpacking.
What's so bad about it? First of all, you're only snowed in for a maximum 3 days. Maximum.
How do you know that?
Who says that?
Because
how do you know the blizzard's over in 3 days?
Because I know that it's over already. It snowed for 24 hours.
What if you're in a blizzard that lasts longer? I mean,
I said I want to be in that blizzard, not a different one where I would die from it.
But you said that you were going to submit to nature, which if you submit to nature, you don't get to choose how long it lasts.
Well, no, because he can always just say the safe word. He says banana, and then the snowstorm ends.
Stops. That's right. I thought it was coconut, but if we're on banana, as long as I know the safe word.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just miss the feeling. For me, all these sunny days bring me down, and I'm not kidding. Like, they make me a little sad. It's like everything is just so clearly visible in front of you, and nothing ever changes. I love waking up to see every tiny little 2-inch tree branch have a little like hat of snow on it, where there's no wind and everything is perfectly still, and that slight flurries sound where it's almost quieter than no sound at all. It's just like this.
But I think
I miss it.
But part of it is it's a built-in vacation from a system that has to understand that at times people won't be able to leave their house. In this state, like, your employer is like, go fuck yourself. It's always sunny. Eat a bowl of dick. You don't get to – you work till you die.
I would have hated going to elementary school here where you never get a snow day. Like, when I loved – they were like, it's going to snow tonight. I'm like, will it be enough inches to get us out of school?
Turn on the radio?
Because in upstate – radio all night. Because in upstate New York – it took a lot of snow for them to cancel school. It wasn't like friggin' D.C. or Maryland.
When I was going to school in Pennsylvania, you got them snow days tacked on to the end of the fucking year in the summer.
If you go over a limit.
They had already built in like 10 snow days. In most school districts, they build in like 10 snow days.
Yeah.
And
well,
if you go over
this is some kind of newfangled law that wasn't happening when my old ass was in school.
Back when you were walking uphill both ways.
If they made you redo every snow day.
They got tacked on at the end of the year, bro.
Suck. But then
Pennsylvania's almost a police state, dude. It's like right there.
Ugh.
It is, except for Philly. It's
the
blue beacon in red PA.
Guys, we're already 1/6 through this thing. We gotta get rolling
together.
The other thing in the news that I don't.
There's only two. This is the other one.
It's kind of annoying, even to me, that this is in the news, but hopefully we can do a radical agnostic and get a different take on it. The whole Academy Awards Oscar thing, and all 20 of the actors that are nominated are white. I don't know, guys. Like, first of all, I'm channeling Mark Beef on my opinion on this, which is that why does it matter anyway? Because the Oscars, are they really a great measure of how good a movie was? Like, does the best movie usually or ever even get up there? It's, so
maybe sometimes, but
even
it's not
beyond,
sometimes
certainly
for
not
sure.
a fucking given.
But even beyond that, the Academy Awards, the Oscars, what most people fail to remember is it is an award show for an industry, just like there's award shows for plumbing, or you know what I mean? Like, you could be, you go to some a plumbing convention, and they're going to win best plumber of the year for and get a
and the award for biggest ass crack goes
they
lowest hanging jeans.
They have an award, the outdoor awards, and they give away sassies, and they're little Sasquatches. That's the statue you get to take home.
Does it come with a lifetime supply of, jerky?
For awards for what?
Like for outdoor awards for like gear makers and people who've done something innovative with outdoor technology.
I mean, there's no difference between the Oscars and any of that. It's just that people pay more attention to that industry. People are, impressed and obsessed with fucking movie celebrities and Hollywood and all that kind of stuff.
It's the Screen Actors Guild, right?
No, it's the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science or something. I'm not saying it right, but it's
you're right.
SAG does not do. They probably have their own awards.
No, the SAGs have their own. They have their own awards.
Have their own
Golden Globes and
biggest hypocrite goes to Ronald Reagan.
Right, whatever it is. But I don't even know who else. I know The Revenant's nominated for a lot of shit.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, it probably deserves all of it. But I don't really know what else is up there. I don't know what else.
Oh, I know Mad Max is up there.
For what?
Which is pretty amazing.
It's up for a bunch of stuff.
For Best Picture.
Best Picture. I think maybe Best George Miller's up for Best Director.
Yeah.
I know it's up for like best, costumes and like special effects kind of stuff.
Oh, I could definitely see that. Man.
That's probably all it's going to win.
The history of it was crazy,
but that it's
man.
up for Best Director and Best Picture, and I don't know for sure. I mean, I don't think any of us know for sure if it really is for both of those. But if it's up for either of those, that's actually kind of a big deal because it's a science fiction sort of, or like it's
fantasy.
Science fiction. It's not
nominate
in the same genre as Crash or The Godfather.
Right.
It would be in the science fiction fantasy shelf in the bookstore as opposed to the general fiction.
Yeah, I mean, it is surprising that a movie as different sort of as that one would make it that far and be this popular, and I really enjoyed it. So I hope that one. I mean, Revenant was really good too. That one's kind of more like custom made to win an Oscar, I think.
What, The Revenant?
Yeah, like especially with Leo's performance, I think Tom Hardy was by far the better character, more interesting to me.
Well, he had more more lines.
Yeah, and right. Leo's guy was part of his personality was that he was very quiet.
I think Tom Hardy is nominated for Best Supporting Actor. If he could easily win, and it wouldn't be a bad choice.
Just
clarify
give him
though, because
Best
Tom
Actor.
Hardy wasn't Tom Hardy Mad Max too.
Yeah.
So you mean Tom Hardy
Right.
in The Revenant?
In The Revenant.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this. I'll tell you why I like Christine. When we got home, she said, it's weird how all these foreign actors, they do this Southern accent. And I said, oh, Hardy wasn't doing a Southern accent. He was doing a Pennsylvania accent. And the guy, she had researched the whole story. The guy Fitzgerald from Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And he nailed it because I knew what accent it was.
Yeah, for him to communicate that so clearly.
Yeah.
But so, Oscars generally go to movies that, we're talking about other directors and actors, nominate them and vote on who's going to win. And so it's like, someone who's never won before and now they're 75 years old and, they feel that they deserve an award finally.
Because I've seen people win for some cheesy shit and you're like, wow, they didn't win for this, but they got an award for that. It was like a makeup call in a football game.
Or like Leo's thing where it's like, oh my God, like he maybe didn't have the best acting, but I haven't seen, I don't know. But they're like, oh my God, he had to suffer through these things to do that movie.
Well, the whole
he didn't
crew.
have a fucking, no, the whole crew, but I mean him and, they relate. They go, man, could you imagine being in that temperature and not having a trailer fucking 20 feet away?
There was a lot.
Retreat to. And,
there was a lot of paid media attention to how much Leonardo DiCaprio suffered.
Right.
It was all, he was on Ellen and they questioned him about it and stuff. And my friend Ryan, he was on the show before, he told me, he mentioned something interesting years ago, and the difference between Americans and Europeans. And he used actors to illustrate the point. And, Americans kind of even rich Americans, they'll dress in like a t-shirt a lot of times these days, and they'll try to be the common man. There's sort of a built-in kind of hatred for that really snooty elitism in America compared with Europe. Over there, they're all like, "Oh, I'm very rich. I've never worked a day in my life." Da, 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 da. And the actors illustrate this. So American actors they're always like, "Oh, what was it like making this movie?" And they're like, "Well, we got to get on the set 4 a.m. every day. 8 hours in makeup, 15 hours walking to the set." Like, they always how hard they worked. That's how American actors always say that. European actors are like, "Oh, yeah, I basically did nothing. I did not read the script. I felt like I should make up my own lines, so I did, and that's why my performance is so excellent."
Right.
Like, it's a big cultural difference that I always found fascinating.
Well, and that whole setup and the background about that industry then kind of clarifies and shows that the issue we're talking about, where they want to boycott because they don't feel that enough black people got nominated, or people of color that aren't white or whatever, it's kind of a non-issue in the real world. Like, you got the issue of black people dying, being killed for fucking misdemeanors in this country is a real fucking issue.
Right.
And I know it's kind of about that, but really it's a bunch of people that are privileged.
Yeah.
Sorry, let's say it. People in Hollywood and actors are privileged beyond the normal man. And so then they take their problems that they see, that they face, maybe you're Will Smith and you haven't been nominated for an Oscar or won one yet, or, fucking whatever. Spike Lee, Phil Snow.
But I don't think it was
and
black
so then you're
actors
gonna be like,
that brought this up, though.
well,
was it?
no, yes, it was.
I think it was
Spike Lee and Jada Smith are the two that are boycotting it. Snoop Dogg also said he's boycotting.
I'm going to say, if it's about Will Smith, it's fucking bullshit.
Well, I haven't heard Will
saved
Smith
the
actually say anything. I've heard his wife say something.
Okay, yeah,
I haven't
well,
heard him say anything.
Now,
she
hold
can
on,
shut
though.
up too. If she had any talent, she might be nominated for one, but she's fucking useless. So
Now, it is true that there are bigger problems in the world, but that doesn't make something not a problem. It just means that there are
It
bigger
makes
problems.
it not a problem for normal people, Eddie.
Well,
It's not a problem
right.
for normal people in this fucking country.
okay,
Right, but let me-
Normal
no.
people in this country are not going
okay,
to be affected.
that's true.
Let me ask you something. Who won the Oscar for Best Actor last year, or
I don't
two
give no
2
shits
years
about the
ago?
Oscars, but that's not the
And
point.
here's the thing: neither does anybody else.
Yeah.
Right,
and that's
but-
Mark's point.
My
It doesn't fucking
But
matter.
hold on, because
And I'm not saying it's not a symptom of the bigger problem.
and that's the point they're trying to make.
I understand that. But then let's focus on the real problem, not a symptom. That's my point.
That's
What?
a balance.
Okay. What is the real problem?
The real problem is racism and systematic
Okay, how do you fix it?
racism. Well, you fix it by trying to get people to accept black people as normal people, see them just as regular fucking people. But I don't think that you do it in this one industry first. I don't think you focus on Hollywood, making sure that there's enough of them nominated, and then that'll fix the rest of the problem.
No one said it would fix the rest of the problem.
Well, I think you should focus your attention on the real problem. All these actors, and I'm not saying they don't possibly focus on it, but really you hear more about stuff like this than Jada Pinkett Smith and fucking Spike Lee and whoever else going and fucking, contributing to their communities or
let me put it this way:
and protests against police violence. Or,
if you have like AIDS or something and you have open sores and you just cover the sore, you just address the symptom. You're not doing anything to fix the AIDS. Okay, nothing at all. You might want to cover that up, so it doesn't bleed or whatever. But you're doing it. It doesn't help the actual problem at all, not even a little. So the reason I think that's appropriate here is because if you pressure the Academy to nominate half of all of their nominations have to be black from now on. In other words, this is supposed to be a merit-based award show, so it can't be evidence of racism that you haven't nominated any black people. That's not proof of racism.
And I agree with that.
It might just be that the 20 best actors that year, because white people make up 4, 5, 6 times the proportion of blacks in this country. There's a lot more white people. So it just may be that this year the 20 best actors were white. Now, if someone has an actual example, like, no, this guy in this movie, Michael P. Jordan.
Did Jamie Foxx win for Ray?
Yeah.
Oh, he should have too.
If you say Michael P. Jordan in Creed was really, really good, and that's an argument that can be made. I really like that movie a lot.
I haven't seen any of the movies that everybody's saying got dissed.
Then we could address that. But you can't say, look at the number of white faces on the podium. That's proof of racism because it's not. So if you actually do just try to address that symptom by like pressure on the Academy to have a quota, you're not only not fixing the problem, you're getting people angry.
But stop. Okay. Because you're making up stories now. There's no pressure. There's no argument. Oh, half of them should be black. You're now making up their goal.
Not half.
Their point is just to say, hey, we find it very hard to believe that there was that it really was 20-0. And frankly, that's true. It is very hard to believe that it's 20-0.
Yeah.
Now, it can happen. And you're right to say that they should be talking about that the discussion should be about specific examples. Why this over this? Why this over this? That's true. But then I hear stories like, Gillian Anderson. When she was on X-Files, they paid her half what David Duchovny made.
Yeah.
Now, my gut reaction to that was...
They're paying her less than that now, I think, for the redo.
Would you let me...
Go ahead.
My gut reaction to that was, he had a career. He was in the Red Shoe Diaries. He's been a heartthrob. Versus her, she's had some career before the original X-Files, but not so much after, right?
She was
and they
unknown.
tried to do that to her this time, and actually she refused. So they did try to pay her half, but I think she is getting paid equally. But I don't know the actual numbers.
Yeah.
But
like a lot of...
So I read that article and I said, well, her career, there may be reasons for that. And then I also heard, they also required that she be at least 2 steps behind Fox Mulder at all times. Okay, well, you can't really defend that. And the problem is when you're talking about symptoms, like when
no, I don't know
it's
if
not
you can't
true.
defend that.
It's false that sometimes helping symptoms can help the disease altogether.
Yeah, sometimes it can. I'm just saying this is an example of when it wouldn't, because you're forcing the issue. You're forcing and you're slightly wrong, because the Academy themselves came out yesterday and said by 2020, half of our staff is going to be minorities or women.
Of our staff, but that's different than of the nominations,
right? But anyway, it's going on to some extent. What I said. So,
is Fox Mulder Muslim?
It's just
he wants to believe.
I'm just the truth is out there.
Like, I kind of tend to agree with Bill Maher, something he said this week, that that political correctness is why we have Trump now. Like the negative side, the negative side of political. I'm going to qualify his words a little, because I think some things about political correctness are good, but most of it or a lot of it is not. I think Mar might be right that's why we've got a Trump, because that's the reason Trump can say anything and doesn't lose anyone. Because the more outlandish thing he says, the more it's clear to them that he quote unquote doesn't care about what the media thinks.
There are two big things about political correctness, though, because sometimes it goes overboard. But Trump is not a response to that. Trump is just as much a response to the, hey, can we not call black people niggers? Like, I kind of think that's probably not cool. And there's a whole bunch of people out there who are like, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you call me an asshole?
Your contention is that more of Trump's supporters are straight up nigger saying racists than they are like working class people, white people who kind of think they've been screwed and are sick of the political thing.
The problem is when you lay it at the feet of political correctness, you, because you're a reasonable person, are looking at the problems, because it certainly goes overboard. The same types of arguments sometimes are applied very poorly and are applied in a way that's way overboard, that people are like, well, that's barely even political correctness. You're going too far, right? But it's the concept of political correctness itself, and the original concept of political correctness is more just like, hey, let's not
politeness.
Can we not be assholes for no good reason?
You're talking about early on, and I would agree with you that
and still now.
That's no
for some people.
No,
and still now.
It's pretty much 100% overboard now.
Well,
pretty much most of it. I'm saying the majority, at least 95% of political correct, arguments, issues that they're pissed off about is pretty overblown. Even with this Academy Award thing, like, really, is that an issue? I mean, majority of the people that vote in the Academy Awards, they've said, is white men in their 60s. So you can say that it's racist that they nominate these people, but I would suggest it's their peers. They are nominating the people.
And so black people are not their peers, is what you're saying?
I'm saying black people's peers are black people in your community, right? How many of these rich, old white dudes hang out with black people? They're their best friends. You know what I mean? Do you understand what I'm saying?
There's a difference between an organization that says, hey, we're for rich old white people, and an organization that pretends to not be. And I think that's a fundamental problem with the Academy Awards. If you're going to sit there saying, well, it's mostly old white guys, and so that's their peers.
You yourself just admitted that Hollywood does just pretend. They're going to pay Gillian Anderson half of what they pay Fox Mulder. They're going to have her, you know what I mean? They give lip service, and that's the problem. That's my problem with a lot of politically correct shit. Because it's only lip service. That's all it is.
Right. And that can be more, like, I wrote a book on it, about the counterfeit. Faking something can be worse than just being the bad thing, honestly. Like, faking to be a good, like a priest who abuses kids, it's worse in a lot of ways than just a homeless guy in the park abusing kids. Because the priest is saying, hey, I'm an authority figure, I speak for God. There's all this other shit that comes along with it. I'm supposed to be the example of virtue in the world, but I'm actually evil.
Right.
So that's just, so the fact that they're pretending to be it. But Mark, to be the devil's advocate to you, couldn't it just be, if we're all sitting here like, shh, this is a non-issue, guys, not important, can't that be because we're not black? We're not like might it chap our ass a little to see yet another minds, yet another instance of this? Like a lot of black people care about entertainment. They care about movies, and they watch these awards, and they want other black people to win, and sometimes. So can it be that a little bit? Should there be a benefit of the doubt?
It can be that, but also I would suggest that a lot of it is we're not black and we're not in the industry. We're not actors. We're not, you know what I mean? And so people that are in that industry that are black, I can understand why you're pissed off, why you might want to boycott. Do it, that's fine. Even address it in the media and say whatever. But to make it be in the forefront of everything, like above like other problems that we're actually going through right now, that's a little ridiculous to me. And that's not and
whose fault
just
is
for
that?
me. That's right. That's what I was going to get to. It's not their fault. It's not Jada Pinkett Smith's fault that it's in the media. It's not fucking Spike Lee's fault. It's it's the media. The media chooses to cover this and make it the issue. But then at the same time, if the public accepts it and they fucking run with it and they buy it and they're like paying attention to it, you can't really fault the media either.
Speaking of well, I mentioned Trump. You guys heard what he said yesterday, right?
That he could kill a guy?
He said, I could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot people, and I wouldn't lose any voters. Notice, this is a quote from him speaking yesterday. Notice that he didn't say, the media could tell you that I shot someone and I wouldn't lose any voters because you guys would know the truth would be the underline.
Right.
Like you guys would know that it's bullshit. He said I could shoot people for no reason, and you
he's
guys
probably right.
and I wouldn't lose a vote.
He's probably right.
I mean, talk about the chutzpah on that guy. Like,
He's probably right, though. Is it really chutzpah if you're right?
No, he probably is right. And the thing is, like anyone that's criticizing him for saying that or saying that's proof that he's awful in some ways, and in my mind, it's an attack or a critique on his voters from him, saying the people who want to vote for me are so fucking stupid.
Well, yeah, that's how it's been interpreted,
and so not paying attention to anything else.
Yeah.
That they would still vote for me even if I did this horrible thing.
Murder for no reason, cold-blooded, random murder. You guys wouldn't care.
I mean, he's already said that putting people in camps was a good idea. He's already said he wants to put a whole class of people on a list.
Oh, he wants to kill the families of suspected terrorists.
And so again, it just, in my mind, it cements it further that Trump is a political Andy Kaufman.
He's a plant by the Clinton family,
no,
right?
actually, it's not the. I mean, yes. I mean, I'm not really disagreeing with you, but I'm going to qualify it by saying he's Tony Clifton.
Well, right, okay.
He's so Tony Clifton.
I'll fight anybody in the room.
So, Eddie, what were you going to say about? You said something about some diversity issue that you had been reading about that the Oscars discussion was going to lead into. Something about Muslim women.
Oh yeah, I diversity. Like there was a big controversy this past year about the Hugos and diversity. Similar, but a much smaller and fewer people heard about.
The science fiction awards?
Yeah, the science fiction awards. About because there was a whole group of people who decided to game the awards in favor of white men because, white men just aren't getting enough credit now. Like, no, I'm not really exaggerating.
Sci-fi
here.
fans that are
that
don't like brown people?
Yeah.
They thought
really
that
don't.
White men were not getting enough attention in sci-fi, and so they...
Yes.
Did what?
The way the Hugos work is that in order to nominate and cast a ballot, you have to attend a certain conference, and I don't know enough about like the exact process, but you have to go to a thing. So if enough people go, and the idea is usually like everybody makes their own card. Like you can put like 5 things on, and then later on you get to vote for one, right? Well, if everybody gets together and schemes to put the same 5, then like normally it might be like, well, you like Mein Kampf, but I like the Turner Diaries, and therefore only only one of them might get on it. But if we both decide to put one of those on there, and so they gamed the system, and that was a big controversy. And so the subject of diversity in fiction came up even before the Oscars, and I was interested in my own cognitive dissonance because I'm a fan of diversity. I do think that I get upset. Like there are comics I love, like Lumberjanes. It's a story that would have traditionally been told with boys, but it's not. It's about like basically Girl Scouts, but like Girl Scouts who are out in the woods doing stuff, and it's an awesome comic. But then I was reading Ms. Marvel, and Ms. Marvel, the new Ms. Marvel, is a Muslim. And on the one hand, oh my God, there's a Muslim main character of a mainstream comic with one of the major names.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not taking the place of the existing one. Like, there's a whole story about it that I'm not going to get into, but like it's her. Like, they didn't undo anything or change anything.
Is it Ultimate Universe? Is it that?
No,
whole
it's
thing?
no. She's
like Spider-Man,
she's the main one. No, she's not.
Morales, is that the
Miles Morales, who's
Miles
awesome,
Morales,
but no,
yeah.
no. This isn't the main Marvel universe. The idea is basically she just really liked Ms. Marvel, and her power is she can change her body. And so the first time it happened, she turned into Ms. Marvel, and so everyone called it like, oh, it's Captain Marvel.
Have you read it?
I read the first. I've read several of the books in it.
How did they integrate the Muslim faith? Did she take time 5 times a day to pray? I mean,
well, she's supposed to be Pakistani, and there's just a whole lot of stuff like her costume is a modified, and this is a word, burkini.
Burkini.
What?
The burkini is a swimsuit.
No, I understand.
Yeah. Okay,
Burqa, that's a bikini.
Yeah.
Which completely
is a contradiction.
It's not at all. It doesn't show any skin at all. It's like if you were wearing a bodysuit and then you put a tunic over that. Is kind
so
of what
it's not
a bikini
even
looks
form
like.
fitting.
So, I mean, a little, but not in any meaningful way. And like, there's parts where it shows her at the mosque, and like the girls have to sit on the other side of a screen and can't even hear the
See, this seems a little forced to me.
On the flip side, that's their day-to-day life.
Whose?
that of Muslims in this community.
No, I'm saying the creation of this character to me seems a little bit forced.
And I'm often afraid of that, but my big thing is it wasn't a zero-sum game. They didn't get rid of the existing ones, and so the idea.
If it's good, it's good,
and it's overall very good. And when you say it's forced, it's like, well, they didn't screw over anything that existed to shoehorn this in.
Yeah,
and she's a brand new character, so that's just her life, and that's a perfect. That's just how people are.
Yeah,
it somewhat feels like a
and there's 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. So,
but here's my problem: I'm a big fan of diversity, and I do, on one level, think it's good to show a Muslim person who's not an asshole, because I don't think all Muslims are asshole. On the flip side, I read it bothers me because that is her normal life, and that is the normal life of many Muslims, and I find it horrific. I don't like the culture that says women have to be on the other side of the screen. Women are. There's a saying. If a man and a woman are alone together, the third one is Satan. Well, it's shaitan, but it's Satan. It's and it's normalizing that to a certain extent because that is their normal life, and they are normal people. But I'm bothered because it's no, that's terrible.
Well, it's this classic schism within liberalism of feminism versus multiculturalism. So are we supposed to be cultural relativists and say, look, man, that's how these people live. It may look weird to me. Every time you see a new culture, something's going to look weird and backward and stupid. I'm watching a documentary on Lewis and Clark, and man, they're interacting with Indian tribes for the first time that any white man has ever done so. In passing Colorado and everything, and there's great stories, and some of the tribes are like, these people are savage fucks, and then other ones are like, they're the nicest people I've ever met.
Well, it's funny because the Nez Perce, when they ran into the Nez Perce thought they were related to dogs because they were so hairy and they smelled so badly. But one of Lewis and Clark was a doctor, and he was actually able to help a lot of them, and they thought that Lewis, that
he wasn't really a professional doctor.
No, but he had some experience.
Yeah, so he played one in his shed.
Yeah.
They gave everyone those thunderbolts. It was like Dr. Tom's thunderbolts, and it was this incredibly powerful laxative. And it's the last thing you want to use for most situations out in the backcountry, and they used it for every illness. And
isn't that how they found one of Lewis and Clark's camps? Because they found
diarrhea.
They found mercury and diarrhea because they knew they all had syphilis and that they were taking the diuretics, and so.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, in a way, they thought a lot of his power came from this book that he carried, the Bible is what it was. And when he left,
useless weight on the trail.
Yeah. Well, what's weird is they might have inadvertently started some of the missionary behavior out west because they thought that he got power from this book.
Yeah.
So a group of them, really before a lot of people started going west, rode all the way to fucking Kansas City, St. Louis, looking for a Bible.
To get the power?
Yeah, and only 2 of them made it.
That's crazy, man.
But then it turned out Denzel was blind all along.
Well, and then they came. People came back out behind him and settled that area, and
it's a fascinating story. I'm watching the Ken Burns 2-part documentary. Ken Burns, who just rocks the socks off of everything that he does.
All the shit he does about the West is amazing.
Civil War. Oh, that was baseball. Yeah. Mark Twain.
The Sioux Wars.
Yeah.
Geronimo. Wild Bill Hickok. He's done a lot of stuff about the West.
The Cook, the Thief, his wife and her lover.
Are you being serious?
Yeah. It's Ken Russell.
Ken Burns,
different guy. It's also not
I
Kurt
kept
Russell.
waiting for your face to change. I'm like, are you joking, dude? Why are you fucking with me, man? What did I do?
But all right.
Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns.
Excellent.
Release the hounds.
You assholes did that.
Yeah, I know. In the fantasy series that I'm reading that I keep raving about, he doesn't give a lot of political correct lip service, and he portrays people in sort of an older fashion, but not. He's careful not to say anything, bad or generalize about women or anything like that. And he comes across this this remote culture in that fantasy world, and it's a matriarchal culture where the women are the warriors and stuff. And it can sound cheesy and forced until he explains how their martial art, which is actually a lot like jiu-jitsu and judo with some strikes, how their martial art is geared for the female body, and the women are born, taught from birth that
it's all about the Kegel.
you're gonna be a fighter, you're gonna be a badass, and the men do it too. They become warriors as well. They're just they're not in the elite ranks because they're just not as good, even though they're bigger and stronger. And this culture believes that men have nothing to do with conception and childbirth. Like, in other words, they don't believe that there's a sperm and an egg and that they have anything to do with each other. And the main character is he's basically has all the knowledge, scientific knowledge that we do. But, of course, they can't do DNA tests in this fantasy world. But aside from that, he can't convince the woman. She's just laughing at him. She's like, oh, you guys from the East believe in man mothers. It's true. You really believe it? You think that men have something to do with babies? And he's like, yeah, they do. He goes, have you ever known a woman to get pregnant who hadn't had sex in the last month? And she goes, I've never known a woman who didn't have sex for a month. She goes, because they all just have sex with each other. Like, his trainer, this strong woman, she has sex with him, and he's all nervous about it. And she's like, "What? We're just gonna take our clothes off now and do this, and then go back to training.
Take our clothes off and wrestle."
Yeah, and there's no like stigma or shame about it. And women are just constantly having sex with other partners, and they have this whole system whereby they prevent getting STDs. So he puts that in there. But it was fascinating to me that he could not convince her. It's this guy that knows anything that we know. If anyone at this table had an argument with this woman, she was like, the men have nothing to do with child. We wouldn't be able to convince her because the whole...
But isn't that reality?
What?
Isn't that reality? Most people, their beliefs, forms a bias, and like... If we're going to sit here and go, oh, no, that's not real.
Yeah, for sure.
Most people are going to be like, shut up.
But we couldn't even give them... I can make a good argument for why the earth is round rather than flat. One where if you rejected that argument, you're not being logical. But I couldn't... That
could be true, but we're not talking about logic.
Right,
we're
but I couldn't
about people's biases and their beliefs.
I know, but
which
with
is
this...
not always logical.
But if you were trying to convince this woman about man mothers, you wouldn't even have an irrefutable argument. I'm saying,
right,
there's nothing you can.
Yeah.
He was like, well, why do sons look like their fathers a lot of times? And and her answer was, every baby looks like an old man.
Tiny Winston Churchills,
which I thought was the funniest answer.
But like that's for me, that's the difference between what you're talking about and what Eddie's talking about is, and usually in fantasy. I feel that works better.
Yeah.
Like Mouse, like,
right.
where you're going to portray something that is based on something in reality or problem or social issue or whatever, but you don't make it into that. You just make it like
it
that.
Addresses. Well, you're saying that social issues can be addressed without being on the nose and
well,
forced.
yeah, it's not like, oh, this woman is a Muslim. You can create like a religion that is like Islam,
right?
And you can, you know what I mean? But it's not. So then, even people who might have a bias against Muslims, they could read that and go, oh, like I understand that issue, and maybe they wouldn't equate it with Muslims. But if you equated it with Muslims, your creator, you might already have the bias against, like the person, I don't want to read that. It's about Muslims.
Yeah,
you know what
right.
I mean? Whereas
there's a way to do it, in other words, that isn't forced and PC. That's my point. It takes artistry, it takes subtlety, but it can be done. And so if you're going to bring diversity into something, you can do it with skill, but don't shove it down my throat. Brian.
Lord of the Rings. It's a perfect example of everything y'all just talked about.
It reflects our history.
It reflects diversity in a huge way. Think about the Fellowship.
Yeah, all the
They're
different
from all
races.
different fucking races. Yeah. Okay, I've always thought that it's a fucking statement against war and industrialization, and a statement for community, and more of an agrarian society. But he doesn't beat that into your head. It's a great fantasy story the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a big thing is, whatever your point is, fundamentally the story needs to come first. It's one of my favorite parts about Philip K. Dick.
And can you think of you probably can think of a better example than that, but I can't.
Well, also, The Lord of the Rings is basically about
Star
good
Trek
versus evil, and about God and Satan. And he was able to portray it without hammering it over your head. But that's really what it's about.
It wasn't
and
like...
Same with C.S. Lewis's Language
No,
and
but
Wardrobe, but that one is hammering you over the head. And that was a big difference between the two. Even though they were good friends, Tolkien thought C.S. Lewis was kind of a crappy writer, and at least in fiction.
But
he's not. Yes, he did.
No. Brian was saying he is a shitty writer, and I'm saying my point, my defense of him is just that that book series was for children. It was
you're
for
right,
children,
right.
And Lord of the Rings is for young adults to adults.
But children can still handle slightly complicated things. You don't have to pound it home.
You do a little more.
I wasn't going to say he was a shitty writer. I was going to say I don't really think that they're directed at. I don't really think that's the same.
Well, I doubt Tolkien would say
Well, I mean,
Lewis
they were
was
friends.
a shitty writer,
Yeah.
but he just thought he was not.
They
At least in that
Like
series,
yeah,
and he
no,
was
I get
right,
it.
and
I'm
he
he's
was
just
not
saying
reaching
they-
his potential.
C.S. Lewis wasn't in that top tier. I agree. So yeah.
He wouldn't be in the literature section. I don't think he should be. Like you can just put him.
Well,
over
his
there in fiction.
nonfiction is worthy. Screw Tape Letters,
the Screw
Mere
Tape Letters is
Christianity.
Well,
Mere
Tips
Christian-
Letters is not nonfiction, but yeah.
Oh yeah, right. It kind of is.
It usually goes with his other religious writings. though.
Yeah, no, you're right. Though.
But it actually tells its own story.
Yeah, it does. So,
My dear Wormwood.
You don't have much interest in religious writings.
Screw Tape Letters is good, though. You should give that one a read.
yeah,
I might just pass.
But see, it's
We got a lot of
like
stuff
Brian
to read right
for that
now.
for that. It's like, have you read Joseph Campbell?
Hero
Any of his
of the
stuff?
Thousand Faces?
Yeah.
I don't
Like
think
so basically, it's the idea that there's avatars. Avatar is like the ultimate ideal of some idea
Can't I think of the word?
some thing, and so
archetypes,
right? That's what.
Thank
it
you.
is.
I was going to have to get my phone
not-
out.
killing me.
Archetype. So and these exist in all communities, in
Right.
all cultures.
I'm familiar
And
with
so-
the concept. So
Right. So then this stuff, they're Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, they're just writing about that idea through their culture, which their culture was Christianity. They were raised in, actually, Tolkien was a Roman Catholic. I researched this. C.S. Lewis was an Anglican. But he became an Anglican through Tolkien. He was an atheist before he became an Anglican. And Tolkien is the one who brought him to Christianity.
Why didn't he go Catholic then?
That was a big problem that Tolkien had with C.S. Lewis. He was, why are you going Anglican and not Catholicism? But I don't know.
I would go Anglican too, man.
Right. So, so what I'm saying is like, it is about religion, but it's about beyond religion. It's about things that are, have existed in cultures for millennia.
Yeah.
And so it's,
Those guys are perfectly willing to show you the Christ figure in pre-Christian religions. They're saying this is a long tradition of there are Christ figures. I think in Zoroastrianism or some of those religions, someone dies.
You just have to be. I mean, a lot of the elements are consistent, but you got to be careful, especially after that movie Zeitgeist, which is just full of fucking nonsense. That a lot of things like, well, wasn't this exactly the same? No, that movie said it and it was wrong. That's it. But it's close. There's a couple similarities.
but it's
No, yeah,
but it's
no, it's
threads.
not.
It's,
It's
right.
important threads running through
Certainly.
history.
but like the
Certain.
flood exists in pretty much all
Yeah.
early writings that are going back to that period of time, and religions.
And it's
the
a
sun
flood.
god, a sun god. Well,
The
right,
flood.
a flood.
Yeah,
but a big flood.
there's a very good argument
sun gods.
that there was either a meteor strike or the end of an ice age that caused massive sea level rises all over the earth.
Someone dying and then getting resurrected again.
Right.
That's in plenty of fucking religions.
yeah.
And C.S. Lewis all those guys were influenced by, or at least they were contemporaries with Carl Jung, and so they were. Joseph Campbell especially was a
well, but
student
Campbell
of-
was post Young, right?
Yeah, a student of Jung.
Yeah.
And point being that Jung would look for these archetypes in dreams because he believed that they were part of a collective unconscious, a shared consciousness, that you didn't have to read a book about this mythological symbol because here's my patient X who had a dream about a pendulum or one of these mythological symbols or archetypes, and he would read those things into people's dreams, and that was part of his dream interpretation process, which is fascinating to me. I love that stuff.
You know what the difference is between Jung and Freud?
What?
Jung would make up very complicated ideas from the things he had. Freud would just make up really complicated things. Full stop.
Yeah, he was making up a lot. He's a genius, but he's just happens to be wrong on like 90% of the
Well,
things
when you
he
make
said.
up all your case histories.
Yeah. Brian, you read about an interesting bug.
Best transition ever.
I was gonna just go right to a mama joke, but yeah, I read about a bug. Been reading about a lot of things.
Let's deal with this little guy.
There's a place off Australia called Lord Howe Island,
Oh, God.
and a boat crashes there one time, and a bunch of rats get off the boat.
And it's really, when you think of an island, this is not that. This is like a big rock.
No.
jutting.
That's the second part of the story.
Okay.
Because Lord Howe Island is an actual island. It has plenty of habitat and all this stuff. These rats get off the boat, and there's these huge walking sticks there. They're massive. They're black. They're bigger than my hand. They're huge. They look horrible.
Yeah.
I
don't like walking
The
sticks.
rats
They
find
creep me
them.
out.
The rats find them delicious, so they decimate the population quickly. There's no more. They're gone. Some climbers take a picture or something. I forget how they found them. They're on this rock, like Mark's talking about.
Yes. So some climbers went from
They brought
that
back a
island or
skeleton
Australia or
something.
wherever, and they went to this big giant rock that's jutting out of the ocean because they wanted to go climb it.
Right.
And they wanted to go check it out, whatever. So they did, and on their way, like that they're doing this, they noticed like this bush or something growing out of the side of the rock, and they looked at it and they saw something.
I
can't
think they
remember
saw a
what it
carapace,
was.
a shed carapace, or they took a
Yeah.
picture of one of them. Anyway, some scientists go back and they look for him and they can't find him. And then they see this one bush, and they go and they do find them there. For 80 fucking years, this thing has supposed to have disappeared.
The walking stick?
Yeah. And they've been living under this one bush on this one rock that sticks straight up out of the ocean. When you look at it from the top, you can barely see it. Yeah. You look at it from the side, it's this huge spike sticking out of the ocean. So there's one bush up there where this almost extinct animal survived under. What I can't get is it's one bush, man.
How many of them were there?
4.
No, there were a bunch, but they took 4. They took 4.
They took 2
from
that
the-
died, and
Yeah.
then they took 2 more.
Right.
And the one was dying. And the head entomologist in Australia, he mixed up some concoction. And I remember there was magnesium and calcium and something else in it.
Yeah.
And he gave it to the female. And within minutes, she was up and around and doing better again. And now they have thousands of eggs, and they want to relocate them to Lord Howe Island. And but like the residents
The
have
rats
to,
are still there, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's not going to work.
So they're like, well, we'd have to start a really vengeful rat eradication program.
Which is
Right.
like, now we're murdering animals to throw other animals somewhere. This is weird.
Like now, but there's an argument for invasive species.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Well,
whole
there's
reason-
plenty of those rats in the rest of the world. It's
yeah,
not like you're
that's what
gonna
I'm saying.
wipe
And
them
they're
out.
not from there initially. It's like
Right.
feral pigs in Australia.
Right. But I think some of the people that live on the island don't want those bugs.
No,
island
I'll take
either,
the
so-
bugs over to rats though.
the
What's
reason
wrong with
that-
rats?
Well, they carry way more disease. I mean, there's that whole fucking plague thing.
marsupials,
That's fleas.
marsupials,
Yeah, but where did the fucking the fleas were riding rats, bro? You know,
like after the dinosaurs died, there were mammals and marsupials, and marsupials are kind of like half mammal, but not quite. And the reason marsupials survived in Australia and nowhere else was because there were no major land predators there at the times, and marsupials are kind of like not as good, not as evolved as mammals, so that's why they were able to survive.
Now,
there.
is a platypus a marsupial?
I don't think so.
Because I know
Man, I don't know
kangaroos
what a
and
platypus
koalas.
is. Is
koalas
it?
are
It has a
marsupials,
pouch?
right?
What?
a platypus has
Is
a
a koala a
It
marsupial?
lays eggs. Platypi lay eggs.
A koala? Yeah, I think so.
Koalas.
Koalas don't have pouches, do they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, the early mammals did lay eggs, and they were still somehow mammals. So
Well, they
that's
just
weird too.
Uh,
We need
another
someone
thing
on
that-
here who knows
Another
about
thing
that.
that I just saw on Facebook, the same where I saw this story, is there's supposedly a lizard that's warm-blooded now.
Well, it can raise its temperature about to 10 degrees Celsius higher than its environment, and it only does it during the mating season. I didn't read the whole article, so I got interrupted too because I wanted to read it, because I posted that too.
Yeah, okay.
And Yeah, that's a pretty interesting thing. I didn't read why they do it, and I'm not sure that they know how they do it. But just the fact that supposedly cold-blooded, because the rest of the year they maintain like a similar temperature to their den, but when it comes around to mating season, they can raise their body temperature.
It's my understanding that marsupials.
Did you? Oh, okay. I thought you already Googled that lizard. I was gonna fucking be amazed.
Yeah.
One thing at a time.
Go ahead.
Damn it! I had to Google several things. It's my understanding marsupials generally have live young, and I think the platypus is a specific exception to that because they have because they lay eggs. But generally speaking, the big thing is that they're non-placental. That's what I think. Though there are several things that would differentiate them.
Marsupials
the big
have
thing
no
is
placenta.
They don't have a placenta. So no matter how similar they may or may not be to a mammal, them not having a placenta is a kind of a big deal because with mammals, like humans are actually relatively unique or relatively unusual in how undeveloped our young are when they come out because of
they're absolutely useless.
Because of head size.
Head size. Most mammals can kind of get around
because the placenta is
week,
a way of
that soft spot on their skull.
Yeah. Well, we got to lug that.
But they can't.
One punch on the top of your head, and you're dead.
Yeah, they can't move either, and they're idiots. They don't recognize danger.
We can't even lift our head.
Yeah,
you imagine poor John as a baby. Look at the size of that thing, dude.
That's why my neck and shoulder muscles are so huge.
That is why.
Also, just to clarify for the audience, when Eddie says to his understanding or knowledge,
I mean Google.
He means he looked it up on Google.
Well, right, but I didn't Google. Like, there's complete Googling, wherein I'm now a Google expert. I got a degree from Google University on the subject, and then there's I looked some stuff up just to make sure I understood what I was talking about.
Just get on that lizard real quick.
Were you trying to out him,
the
Mark?
Tengu.
That's the one, man. The Tengu.
Mark wanted to out you.
That's fine. No, I'll concede it.
I was getting jealous that he might be thought of as an expert, whereas people wouldn't think of me as that.
There are some things I'm an expert in. Typewriter repair.
No one's making that mistake.
Now you got to go to the next step, Eddie, and go to Toogle, where you can Google two things at once.
No.
Well, I'm pretty good at typing one-handed, so if I could just
he's
mix
like,
that
wait, does that exist? I need that shit.
Yeah. So I watched to get Paula to fall asleep. I watched a Noam Chomsky lecture last night.
I'd do it,
and she did. And
was it about political stuff or linguistics?
Political, but he started with science.
Let me put on my shocked face.
But he started with a bunch of interesting scientific stuff, and the debate between Carl Sagan and this other scientist on the probability of alien life existing. And Sagan took the view that it's very, very, very probable, and the other guy took the view that he believed there's an inverse relationship between intelligence and survival over the long term. In other words, where you got stuff like bacteria who can mutate their genes very quickly and adapt, in other words, and they've done very well for billions of years. Beetles, not the brightest.
Yeah, but I've taken a few beatings on the fucking on the couch.
Yeah, but don't call one up if you need help with your taxes. I'm telling you right now, no help at all.
But that's like the difference between the Hulk and Professor X.
Yeah,
the Hulk will kick your ass.
Well, hold on now. The Hulk is a doctor.
When he's not the Hulk.
Yeah.
When he's the Hulk, I don't think he's doing a lot of doctoring.
He loses his degree because he can't provide ID, so he's not actually...
Must resist urge to discuss minutia of comic books.
And beetles, they're idiots, and they've survived for hundreds of millions of years, if not more. And so this other scientist was saying, man, we've been around for, 200,000 years, 2 million if you go back to like Homo erectus and stuff. That's just a flash, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms. And there were none of us for most of that time. There were like 10 people on Earth. It was only in like 1850 that the population really started to climb anywhere near what it is now. It was 1 billion people on Earth in like 1800, I'd say. Yeah. And now there's 7.
Well, and then the plague.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Took out quite a
So his point was,
put
look,
quite a dent in that number.
we're doing well right now, kind of, but Chomsky's point was that environmental disaster on one hand and nuclear war were the two greatest existential threats to human existence, and they still are, and they're more and more every day. Even though we don't sit around worrying about nuclear war anymore, there's no good reason for us not to be worrying about that.
We're
Like,
actually probably closer to it now than we've been
we're
in
definitely closer to it
30
now.
years.
India, Pakistan,
25.
North Korea, these countries all have the weapons now. Israel, of course, no inspection allowed in Israel's atomic weapons because we block that in the
Man,
UN
you
every time.
hate the Jews so much.
Oh, my God.
Not as
Eddie.
much. I know a dude who hates him more.
I love Noam Chomsky, and he's a Jew. So
He's a Bernie guy.
Same Bernie.
As a matter of fact, Bernie, being as old as he is, I don't know how he gets around with John hanging from his nuts. I don't. John's heavy, man. I've tried to fucking get him off of me before. It's not easy, dude.
it's an unfair attack.
Poor Bern must be suffocating under all that heat.
Well, we're at 59 and a half, so do we have... is that our policy now? It's over?
No,
I wanted
we
to
got to
warn-
do the time travel thing.
I wanted to warn Bernie to
that's
watch
a
out for
long
the
topic.
third hook.
That's going to be
Well,
a longer
all
topic.
right. Well, then we're ending the show now, guys. Thanks, we might start it up again.
We might do a second. Well, you've done 2 every week for a while, so even if the second one's short, we'll still have done a second.
Yeah, exactly. So that was
E-break.
episode 47, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Check us out on Facebook. We got our website, theradicalagnostic.com.
There will be at least 1 article on there over the next week, but
Yeah.
hopefully 4.
So, guys, thank you for listening.
Don't hold your breath on that 4 thing.
Oh, we might have a very, very interesting and special guest next weekend. So listen to the next episode if it ever comes out to find out who that is. Thanks, guys.